Hello, dear listener. Welcome to this quiet corner of the night where the world grows soft and unhurried, and where sleepy facts invites you to drift into a gentle space of wonder. You are safe here, wrapped in calm, resting in a place where curiosity moves slowly, like a tide smoothing the edges of the mind. Let your breath loosen. Let your shoulders release their weight and allow this soft exploration to settle around you like a warm blanket of hush and starlight. Tonight, we wander into realms so small they live beyond the reach of ordinary sight, yet their presence threads through every moment of our lives. When the world feels vast or complicated, there is a certain peace in turning toward the tiniest corners of existence where life continues its quiet rituals without urgency or noise. Imagine drifting downward as though floating through layers of water made of moonlight, until the familiar fades into delicate structures and drifting shapes. In this tranquil depth, even the simplest forms shimmer with purpose. The unseen becomes luminous. Complexity softens into gentle motion, and biology transforms from overwhelming detail into a calming hum of patterns and rhythms. Here in this microscopic dreamscape, the scale of life shifts and we rediscover the beauty of the small, the patient, the quietly essential. Let your thoughts soften as we drift into this invisible ocean where the tiniest beings create worlds of their own, and where the smallest movements carry echoes of something vast and ancient. As we sink deeper into this tranquil sea of the unseen, the everyday world loosens its hold, and another landscape gradually unfolds, one built not from mountains or forests, but from textures, currents, and shimmering fragments of life. It begins as a faint glow, a soft awareness that everything around us, everything we touch, holds its own hidden universe. The air we breathe carries drifting cells and tiny travelers. The surfaces we pass throughout the day are touched by organisms that live their entire lives in moments and micrometers. Even within our own bodies, delicate ecosystems sway in balance, unseen, yet essential, forming an inner ocean that moves with us through every step and every breath. History flickers gently at the edges of this illuminated darkness. Memories of those early dreamers who first dared to look closer. A simple lens, a bit of glass shaped by hand, opened doorways into miniature realms that humanity had never imagined. Through those early microscopes, the world shifted. Water droplets revealed forests of tiny shapes. The slightest smear on a slide transformed into bustling neighborhoods of motion. What was once dismissed as empty became vibrant, filled with life that had always been there, waiting to be noticed. The wonder felt then still lingers now, drifting beside us as we move through this softened landscape. And as we float deeper, the darkness brightens with color and shape, revealing a diversity so rich it seems almost dreamlike. Tiny lights flicker like distant stars, each one a living form moving with its own quiet intention. The closer we come, the more the boundaries of these miniature worlds sharpen, yet nothing loses its gentleness. It is as if the universe itself whispers through these small forms, reminding us that life thrives at every scale, not only in the grand gestures of planets and forests, but also in the trembling edge of a single cell. Within this shimmering space, the first clear shape drifts toward us, a tardigrade, round and plump, moving with endearing slowness. Its legs curl softly, pressing against invisible surfaces, each step a patient exploration. The creature seems unbothered by the vastness around it, moving as though wrapped in calm certainty. In its presence, time seems to stretch. The tardigrade glows with quiet resilience, a reminder that strength often lives not in force, but in persistence. It carries worlds of its own on its tiny frame, walking through droplets like a traveler through forests. Nearby delicate structures begin to shimmer. Diatoms, each one glass-like sculpture formed from silica, each one a small cathedral shaped by nature's steady hand. Their patterns gleam with perfect symmetry like snowflakes, suspended in gentle motion. Some float like slender ships, others radiate like sunbursts. Their beauty feels intentional, as if crafted with quiet artistry. Yet they are simply themselves, producers drifting in aquatic realms, weaving sunlight into nourishment for countless others. In their fragile bodies lies the quiet origin of entire ecosystems. As we continue to drift, the environment around us grows more fluid, more filled with graceful movement. Paramecium slip through the water like strokes of ink across soft parchment, their bodies curved and shimmering, propelled by tiny hairs beating in harmonious waves. Their motion is smooth, rhythmic, as if they are practiced dancers gliding through invisible currents, and then shifting and reshaping itself in an endless dance of becoming an amoeba, flows past a creature without fixed boundaries, expanding and contracting like a breath made visible. Its form is a reminder that not all life holds rigid shape. Some exist as constant transformation. Together, these beings form a silent ballet, each moving at its own pace, each following ancient patterns that require no thought or sound. Their world is one of gentle currents and drifting nourishment, a realm where survival is woven seamlessly into motion. The deeper we drift, the more we feel how interconnected these tiny actors are. Every movement stirs the environment. Every presence shapes the balance. Though small, each carries a role in the greater harmony of ecosystems. It is a humbling truth, softened by the calm of this dreaming descent. The foundation of life often rests upon the smallest shoulders. Phytoplankton begin to appear in shimmering clouds, rising and falling in light-filled layers. Their bodies glow faintly, holding sunlight, as though cradling warmth within. Entire oceans depend on these quiet producers, these floating gardens that drift with tides and nourish countless forms of life. And swimming among them are zooplankton, gentle grazers, drifting like tiny lanterns. Within these simple motions, vast systems take shape. Food webs, suspended in water oxygen, woven from sunlight, life sustained by life, in an endless cycle of giving. Beneath these drifting communities lies another realm, one composed of decomposers, bacteria and fungi, working unseen in the shadows. They move not with grace or flourish, but with steady purpose, returning nutrients to the world, keeping soil fertile, keeping ecosystems healthy. Though rarely noticed, their work forms the quiet heartbeat of balance. Invisible currents shift as if responding to some soft breeze. And in that illuminated flow, details grow sharper. Modern lenses crafted with extraordinary precision allow us to witness structures once hidden even from the earliest dreamers. Cryo-electron microscopy freezes moments in time, revealing landscapes within cells themselves. Intricate, delicate architectures that feel almost impossibly complex for their scale. Through these tools, the microscopic world becomes not only visible, but intimate. Yet, despite this clarity, there remains a softness to everything we see. Movements slow into soothing rhythms. Patterns unfold like meditative drawings. Even the most ordinary drop of pond water reveals entire communities drifting peacefully, each creature carrying its own quiet purpose. It is as if the world has taken its grand complexities and place them gently into smaller forms, offering us a way to understand life not through force or intensity, but through contemplation. As we float in this luminous calm, a gentle understanding settles within us. Life does not need to be large to be meaningful. The tiniest structures, the smallest breaths of motion, hold stories of resilience, cooperation, and beauty. To look closely is to see that the world is filled with wonders that continue whether or not we notice them. And as we witness these miniature realms, we feel our own place within the tapestry of life expand, not by growing larger, but by recognizing the depth that exists in every scale. Still drifting, we begin to sense the soft boundary of our journey's first chapter. The currents remain gentle. The creatures continue their patient dances. And we remain suspended in the quiet hum of existence, ready to drift deeper into this tranquil exploration of the unseen. And so the drifting continues, not with a break or a shift, but like a long exhale dissolving into another. The light around us softens into gentle gradients, hues blending like watercolor dropped into still water. Shapes expand, contract, and rearrange themselves as if the world below sight is breathing with us. Every tiny movement feels deliberate yet effortless, as though life at this scale has found perfect harmony with the currents that carry it. The organisms we pass seem untroubled by our presence, continuing their slow dances in their timeless routines. Their world is neither hurried nor chaotic. Instead, it unfolds with a kind of serenity, a quiet reminder that life can simply be without rushing toward anything, without straining for understanding. In this softened realm, every vibration of water feels like a whisper, every shimmer like a heartbeat. We drift near a cluster of diatoms, their silica shells glistening like stained glass fragments. Each one is unique, yet somehow part of a larger pattern, like tiles in a mosaic laid by nature's patient hands. They spin slowly, carried by delicate currents, turning their glimmering edges toward us. Light catches the ridges, the tiny perforations, the symmetrical designs etched into their surfaces. These patterns, exquisite in their precision, could be mistaken for artworks, if not for the knowledge that they were formed without intention, shaped only by the quiet mathematics of growth. Their radiance softens the space around them, casting gentle shadows that ripple across the drifting plankton nearby. In these shadows, zooplankton sway with quiet grace, their translucent bodies glowing like lanterns. Some move with pulsing motions, small contractions that resemble gentle sighs. Others simply float, suspended, drifting wherever the water carries them, content to follow the pathways laid out by currents older than any single creature could fathom. Among them, a small copepod darts in short skittering bursts, its movements playful and erratic, like a spark flickering through darkness. Even in these quick motions, nothing feels rushed. Each sudden burst is followed by long drifting pauses, where the copepod lets itself be carried by the sea of microscopic life surrounding it. Its limbs shimmer faintly, refracting tiny arcs of light each time they move. The quiet energy of its presence contrasts beautifully with the gentle drifting of the creatures around it, reminding us that vitality can take many forms, some slow and serene, others bright with brief, vivid motion. Above this drifting garden of life, phytoplankton gather in soft clouds, shimmering with the faint glow of absorbed sunlight. Their presence spreads like mist, a comforting haze that gives shape to the water around us. We watch as they gently rise toward imagined skies, drawn upward by warmth. They drift and cluster in layers, their bodies forming the living basis of oceans. Their calm persistence nourishes countless beings, each one a giver in its own understated way. As we drift through these glowing clouds, the world feels both boundless and intimate. Every particle seems to hold meaning. Every motion feels connected to a larger rhythm. In the stillness of this underwater dream, we become aware that the foundation of life on Earth is built from these gentle exchanges: sunlight, captured energy, shared nutrients, cycled through countless small bodies. Nothing here declares its importance. Significance exists quietly in the fabric of everything. Further down, in deeper, more shadowed water, another community waits. The decomposers, bacteria, and fungi work without fanfare, breaking down what once lived and returning its essence to the world. Their forms may not shimmer or drift with elegance, but they move with purpose, knitting together cycles that sustain everything above. Their presence carries a peaceful finality, a reminder that in this realm, nothing is lost, only rearranged, returned, renewed. The water feels warmer here, as though the very act of transformation generates a soft internal glow. Threads of fungal cells weave through the shadows like delicate filaments of moonlight spreading in fine networks. Nearby, colonies of bacteria join them in quiet cooperation, forming patterns that shift slowly as they work through the steps of restoration. For a moment, the quiet efficiency of their labor becomes almost meditative, a rhythm that speaks of patience, persistence, and the endless balancing act of ecosystems. A soft vibration brushes past like a distant hum traveling through the water. It feels almost musical. Perhaps it is the echo of unseen currents. Perhaps the microscopic world has its own melodies expressed through motion rather than sound. As we follow the subtle tremor, the water brightens once again. It is here that the clarity of modern science reveals itself, not as a jolt of brightness, but as a gradual sharpening of the world around us. Structures that were once blurred and mysterious become crisp, rendered in exquisite detail. Cryo-electron microscopy, with its ability to freeze the smallest moments, has brought us closer to these miniature realms than ever before. Through the lens of such precision, membranes appear as delicate waves proteins arrange themselves like tiny sculptures, and the interiors of cells become landscapes of intricate architecture. In this dreamlike descent, we witness these details as though floating through them. Filaments stretch like bridges. Vesicles drift like beads of dew. Patterns emerge, not chaotic, but deeply ordered, as if each cell carries a quiet blueprint encoded in its structure. Through these visions, the beauty of life becomes clearer, not just in the shapes themselves, but in the harmony that binds them. Slow motion movements soften into even gentler rhythms. A paramecium glides past, and we see the tiny cilia along its surface beating like a chorus of miniature oars. Each one moves in perfect coordination, creating a wave that propels the creature forward with effortless grace. The motion is hypnotic, like watching blades of grass bending in a breeze, or ripples spreading from a single drop of water. Nearby, an amoeba extends a translucent arm of its body, reaching out as though exploring. Its membrane shifts with the fluidity of a cloud, stretching and gathering in a continuous cycle of motion. It drifts closer to a cluster of nutrients enveloping them, with gentle persistence, folding them into itself in an act of nourishment that feels almost like a quiet embrace. The entire scene carries a profound softness, a reminder that even the processes essential to survival, movement, feeding, growth, can unfold in ways that soothe rather than overwhelm. There is no haste here, no tension, only the steady, unbroken continuity of life unfolding on its own terms. As we drift deeper into this glowing dream, every detail reinforces the same quiet truth. The microscopic world, though unseen, is rich with beauty, structure, and harmony. It is a place where the simplest actions ripple outward to sustain entire ecosystems, where even the smallest organisms contribute to the balance that allows life at every scale to flourish. We float through a gentle current filled with spiraling patterns, perhaps tiny algae twisting in response to light, perhaps small colonies of cells responding to changes in temperature or salinity. Their movements form swirling shapes that dissolve and reform like a dance choreographed by the water itself. Watching them, the mind grows quiet, drawn into the rhythm of their drifting. A faint shift in the water announces the return of a familiar form. The tardigrade wanders into view once more, its plump body illuminated by faint, dappled light. It ambles along with unhurried determination, exploring the textured surface of a grain of sand that at this scale rises like a cliffside. Its tiny claws hook gently into the uneven surface, each movement deliberate and steady. There is something comforting in its persistence, in its slow yet unwavering steps. It embodies resilience without aggression, strength without noise. All around, life continues its wordless conversations. Diatoms shimmer in drifting constellations. Paramecia glide in fluid arcs. Phytoplankton rise like soft green stars. And beneath them, the decomposers maintain their patient cycles, unseen, but essential, turning endings into beginnings with the calm of ancient rituals. As we float through this tranquil expanse, a deeper understanding settles within us, a recognition of the intricate threads that weave through every level of existence, from the smallest cell to the grandest forest, from a drifting diatom to an entire ocean. Life is a tapestry woven from countless small motions, each contributing to a balance so delicate it can only be seen clearly when we slow down, breathe deeply, and take the time to look closely. The water around us glows with gentle radiance, as though the microscopic world itself is exhaling, welcoming us into its quiet continuum. And as we drift onward, carried by currents older than memory, the story deepens, inviting us further into the serenity of the unseen. The currents that cradle us feel softer now, as if they have settled into an even gentler rhythm, guiding us deeper into this world where every motion is quiet and deliberate. The glow drifting through the water grows diffuse, spreading like whispered light across the shapes that inhabit this miniature expanse. Nothing here rushes toward us. Rather, the scene unfolds in its own time, inviting us to float beside it, unhurried, unworried, carried by the subtle pull of curiosity. In the dim shimmer ahead, delicate filaments of algae sway like threads of silk suspended in invisible wind. Their movements are so subtle that at first they seem perfectly still, but then a faint pulse ripples through them, a slow bending toward light that filters down from imagined skies. Each strand responds not with haste, but with an ancient patience, reaching only as far as it needs to settling into a curve that feels almost like a sigh. Their bodies are simple, yet in their simplicity, they hold the quiet persistence that shapes entire ecosystems. Tiny particles drift past each one, catching the faint glimmer of surrounding life. Some are fragments of organic matter, softened by the water and worn into gentle shapes. Others are small pockets of nutrients invisible to us until a nearby cell senses them and begins to glide closer. In this world, even feeding feels serene, a matter of drifting close enough to gather what is needed, nothing more. The balance is delicate, yet it seems effortless. As we drift a little farther, an entire micro-landscape begins to form, textures rising from what appears at first like barren emptiness. A grain of sediment grows into a golden hill, its surface full of craters and shadows. A thin sheet of biofilm spreads across it, glowing faintly, its surface alive with the subtle activity of countless unseen microbes. They work not with dramatic movement, but with quiet consistency, each contributing to a cycle older than memory. Their presence forms a bridge between what lives and what has lived before, turning fragments into nourishment, transforming endings into quiet beginnings. From the edge of this living terrain, a paramecium emerges once more. It glides forward as though carried by thought rather than motion, the coordinated sweep of its cilia producing a movement so fluid it feels almost like drifting in place. As it passes close, we see faint shifts along the edges of its body, tiny waves traveling in ordered rows, mesmerizing in their repetition. Light reflects along its smooth surface, revealing internal structures that shimmer like soft constellations. The creature tilts slightly, as if adjusting to a gentle current we cannot feel, then continues its steady path through the drifting haze. Not far behind, an amoeba stretches outward in slow exploratory movement. Its translucent membrane expands like a bubble, shifting in a soft breeze, forming a delicate arm that reaches forward. As it touches a cluster of nutrients, the membrane gently encircles the particles. There is no greed in the gesture, only necessity carried out in calm, unhurried waves. The amoeba's body folds inward once more, its outline returning to an ever-changing form, a quiet reminder that life is not always defined by edges, but sometimes by its ability to adapt and flow. Above this scene, faint spirals of phytoplankton drift together, forming swirling patterns that resemble galaxies turning in slow motion. Each tiny organism carries sunlight within, storing warmth and energy gathered through the day. Their presence illuminates the water around them, giving the impression that dawn lingers perpetually in this tiny world. For a moment, everything glows with soft green radiance, a quiet echo of the vast oceans from which they draw their role and purpose. Zooplankton graze among these drifting stars, moving with a mixture of intent and surrender. Some pulse their small appendages, rhythmically progressing through the water with gentle effort. Others simply go where the current carries them, trusting the drift to bring them where they need to be. Their translucent bodies refract the luminous haze, creating tiny prisms of color that shimmer with every movement. Their presence feels like tiny lanterns floating through an underwater sky. As the grazing continues, we sense the subtle shifts of an ecosystem in motion. The exchange of energy is unforced, unhurried, yet constant. One organism absorbs light, another consumes the producer, another decomposes what remains. And through these unbroken cycles, life persists with a quiet steadiness. The harmony of these exchanges feels like a soft hum beneath everything, a vibration that holds the structure of the microscopic world together. Below this layer of drifting radiance, bacteria form slow-moving currents of their own. They cluster in ribbons and patches their patterns, so fine they appear almost like intricate lace. Some glide along surfaces in coordinated waves, leaving faint traces that shimmer with iridescence. Others remain suspended, dividing quietly, expanding their presence in small increments. Their work is subtle, invisible at first glance, yet their role is foundational. Without them, the cycles of renewal that sustain this world would falter. Near a small crevice in the sediment, threads of fungi extend outward, weaving into the surrounding particles. Their hyphae branch like delicate roots, exploring their environment with calm determination. They reach into shadowed spaces where light does not penetrate, breaking down what has drifted to the depths. Through their touch, elements are released back into the water, return to the cycle with the gentleness of a whispered promise. The deeper we drift, the more we see that no action here stands alone. Every motion, every exchange, every transformation is part of a seamless tapestry. The organisms move not with force, but with fluidity, adapting to currents, responding to light, relying on ancient rhythms carried through generations so small and so numerous. They blend into the memory of the world itself. This unity feels soothing, like a long-held chord played on an unseen instrument. A soft shimmer appears at the edge of our view, and the tardigrade ambles through. Once again, its slow steps casting a sense of grounding over the drifting forms around it. Its sturdy presence feels comforting, like the steady beat of a heart within this delicate dreamscape. It moves along the textured surface of another grain of sand, its tiny claws hooking gently, its body swaying with each step. In its quiet persistence, there is a message of endurance, a reminder that even in a world of fragility and ephemeral movement, life can hold firm. Around it, diatoms drift in loose constellations. Their symmetrical shells catch the faint light, creating reflections that ripple through the water like gentle sparks. Some spin slowly, revealing intricate engravings etched by natural forces patterns that resemble mandalas or snowflakes, each perfectly balanced, yet entirely unique. Their artistry exists purely for function, yet it evokes a sense of serenity, as though beauty arises naturally when life moves at the right pace. In the currents between these delicate forms, the paramecia and amoebas continue their dance, drifting closer, then passing apart, never hurried, always in tune with the environment around them. Their movements feel like soft gestures, like the turning of pages in a book written by the water itself. Watching them, we begin to understand that life expressed in miniature is not lesser, but simply different, subtler, quieter, full of rhythms that can only be heard when everything slows down. We glide past a cluster of cells clinging to a surface, their membranes shimmering with activity. Tiny vesicles travel along internal pathways, moving with purpose toward destinations we cannot see. It feels like watching a city at night from high above, lights flickering in patterns that form the pulse of existence. through the clarity offered by advanced microscopy, the inside of even a single cell becomes a landscape full of highways and rivers, boundaries and bridges, dynamic processes woven into a silent, uninterrupted dance. The deeper we go, the more these internal landscapes reveal themselves. Protein structures assemble and disassemble with the grace of natural choreography. Filaments stretch, anchor, and shift, giving shape to forces too small to touch, yet fundamental to the balance of life. Here, nothing is wasted. Every movement has meaning, though it speaks in a language beyond sound. Drifting through this illuminated world, a tranquility settles over us. The motion of the microscopic realm echoes the ebb and flow of waves, the whisper of wind through tall grass, the flicker of starlight across a calm sky. Everything is connected. Everything participates in the quiet symmetry of existence. And as we float through this peaceful expanse, the currents carry us gently onward into the next unfolding chapter of this dream of tiny life. The water around us settles into an even more delicate glow, as though the microscopic world is exhaling softly, inviting us deeper without a single ripple of urgency. Shapes drift in slow spirals and currents weave gentle pathways through them, each movement unfolding like a dream, remembering itself. Nothing interrupts the stillness, nothing disturbs the rhythm. It is a realm held together by calm intention, a world arranged through quiet exchanges older than oceans. Along a faint ridge of sediment, tiny colonies of bacteria shimmer like constellations. They gather in patterns that resemble stars scattered across a night sky, each group glowing with faint luminescence. Within these gentle lights lies the hidden labor that nourishes whole ecosystems, breaking down remnants of life and turning them into threads that weave back into the living world. Their presence feels like a soft reminder that even in the smallest spaces, cycles continue with patience and balance. Beyond these glowing shapes, we drift toward a cluster of diatoms that seem almost crystalline in their stillness. Each one floats with tranquil poise, as though suspended in a moment that never ends. Their silica shells shine faintly, revealing layers of intricate ridges, tiny windows, and symmetrical patterns. They are like miniature lanterns carved by the hands of time itself. Their forms bend the passing light into soft rainbows that ripple gently across the water, coloring the world around them with fleeting hues. Some turn lazily, revealing unexpected facets. Others remain steady, as if listening to the currents that brush past their delicate frames. These tiny architects of the unseen world gather sunlight and transform it into nourishment, a quiet gift that ripples outward through entire ecosystems. They do not demand attention. They simply exist in serene brilliance, shaping life with the softest of gestures. As we watch, a faint movement stirs nearby a paramecium, gliding into view, its sleek body shifting between soft shadow and faint illumination. Its cilia beat in coordinated waves, so steady they resemble the fluttering of distant grass in a gentle breeze. Every tiny movement works in harmony with the next, creating a flow that carries the creature forward without breaking the peace around it. Inside its body, faint structures pulse and swirl, each motion purposeful, yet captured in an aura of dreamlike serenity. The paramecium circles a drifting particle, then turns away with effortless grace. A ripple of reflected light trails behind it, fading slowly like a whispered note dissolving into silence. Not far behind, the amoeba appears again, its form shifting in fluid, ever-changing contours. Its translucent body stretches outward to explore the soft terrain beneath us. One moment, it resembles a drifting cloud. The next, a quiet ripple flowing around obstacles with ease. Every expansion and retraction feels like a slow breath drawn by the world itself. The amoeba does not hurry. It simply follows the subtle signals of the environment, allowing the water to carry it where it needs to go. Nearby, a cluster of phytoplankton gathers in a faint twinkling haze. Their presence lights the water with the gentlest suggestion of green and gold, as though sunlight had been woven into their cells, and only now begins to drift outward. They sway together, turning in faint spirals, forming ribbons of softly glowing shapes that drift upward and downward, breathing with the rhythm of their tiny world. Each one holds the quiet power of transformation, capturing light, releasing oxygen, nourishing countless beings that will never see them. Their presence feels like a lullaby woven into the structure of life itself, a gentle offering that sustains oceans without ever needing recognition. Among them, zooplankton graze with patient movements. Their tiny bodies pulse as they feed, drifting through clouds of phytoplankton as though moving through softly falling snow. Some have delicate appendages that flutter like miniature wings. Others move by contraction, folding and unfolding in slow, peaceful waves that leave trails of faint shimmer behind them. Their translucent forms refract the surrounding light, turning their bodies into tiny, drifting prisms. When clusters of them gather, the water fills with soft motion, like a sky full of lanterns drifting upward on a warm night. Below this living glow, the decomposers continue their subtle, essential work. Bacteria gather in quiet communities, breaking down tiny fragments of once living matter, releasing nutrients into the softly swirling currents. Their cycles run in silence, yet through them, the entire system remains in steady balance. Threads of fungi weave along surfaces their hyphae, branching like fine roots, spreading through twilight soil. They explore crevices where light cannot reach, transforming the forgotten into the foundational offering, their quiet gifts back to the world. There is no hurry in their work, no urgency, only the persistent rhythm of transformation carried out with the patience of deep time. As we drift over this landscape, the boundaries of things begin to feel fluid. The line between one organism and the next dissolves into the currents that connect them. Phytoplankton feed the grazers, grazers feed the hunters. Decomposers return everything to the water, and from those nutrients, new life emerges. It is a cycle without sharp edges, a roundness, a gentle return, a continuous unfolding. In this soft immersion, even the structures within cells feel alive with calm purpose. Through the lens of modern microscopy, we witness them not as static components, but as dynamic landscapes. Ribosomes drift through cytoplasm like tiny beads, carried by a slow river. Filaments stretch across the interior of cells, anchoring shapes with graceful tension. Vesicles bloom and fold like petals, carrying substances from one part of the cell to another with patient reliability. The clarity of these visions does not disrupt the dreamlike atmosphere. Instead, it reveals that even the most intricate architectures follow the same quiet rhythms as creatures drifting in the currents. There is harmony within harmony, without each scale reflecting the same gentle order. A faint shimmer appears, and we recognize the familiar presence of the tardigrade once more. It moves with the same steady confidence, its rounded body swaying with each tiny step. As it travels, it brushes against a thin film of algae that glows softly under its touch. The tardigrade pauses as though taking in the texture, then continues along its path. Its presence anchors the scene again, reminding us of endurance and the unspoken persistence that life carries in all forms. The tardigrade climbs over a grain of mineral that at this scale resembles a smooth boulder. Light glints on its tiny claws as it reaches upward. Even here, in a world defined by fragility and miniature motion, strength exists in quiet forms. It is not the strength of force, but of presence. The willingness simply to continue step after steady step in the vastness of the unseen. As we drift onward, diatoms gather in gentle spirals. Paramecia glide through subtle currents. Phytoplankton shimmer like drifting stars, and the decomposers hum through their ancient cycles. Everything moves with the softness of a dream, unfolding in slow time, revealing truths that feel both scientific and deeply human. For a moment, the entire microscopic world seems to pause with us, suspended in quiet harmony. The glow deepens, the currents ease, the stillness becomes warm and enveloping, and we continue to drift, carried deeper into this serene realm of tiny wonders, where life at its smallest reveals the vastness of its beauty. The currents draw us gently onward, and the light takes on a softened warmth, as though the world around us is illuminated by a quiet memory rather than a physical glow. Everything feels suspended in a delicate balance, drifting not in space, but in time, unfolding at a pace so gentle it seems almost outside of motion. Shapes emerge from the stillness with the grace of clouds forming against a dawn-lit sky, each one subtle, each one part of a larger harmony that hums just beneath the surface. A faint veil of phytoplankton rises ahead, forming a soft, shimmering mist. They drift upward and downward in slow waves, their tiny forms catching and releasing touches of imagined starlight. Each cell turns in place, responding to the faintest suggestion of warmth, as though drawn by a quiet instinct that remembers sunlight even in the dimmest depths. Their surfaces hold delicate pigments that glow softly, whispering of the photosynthesis happening within. They offer their quiet gift of oxygen to the world, an offering made countless times over without celebration, without ceremony, simply part of their being. Among them, zooplankton float in gentle arcs. Some pulse like small beating hearts, their bodies expanding and contracting with rhythmic calm. Others drift with legs extended like the limbs of tiny dancers carried in slow rotations. Their translucent shells gleam as currents pass through them, turning their internal structures into small landscapes of glowing folds. They move through the clouds of phytoplankton with a grace that seems almost meditative feeding without urgency, drifting without resistance, living within a cycle that repeats in quiet continuity. A small copepod flickers into view, its movements a soft contrast to the languid stillness around it. It hops forward in brief, delicate bursts, then pauses to drift. Each pulse of motion sends faint ripples through the surrounding particles, as if painting tiny circles onto invisible water. Its antennae sway with buoyant precision, guiding its path with gentle curiosity. With each pause, the copepod seems to listen to the water, sensing the whispers of nearby currents before deciding its next small leap. Below this drifting ballet, a soft layer of sediment stretches out like a muted landscape. Threads of fungi weave across it, their hyphae extending slowly, branching like roots, exploring a forest floor. Their progress is deliberate but unhurried, each tendril reaching into a new space with the calm assurance of timelessness. In the thin layers between grains of sediment, bacteria cluster like tiny sparks, moving through their cycles of transformation in steady, invisible rhythms. Their interactions form the foundational processes that keep this microcosm alive, shifting nutrients from one state to another with the quiet constancy of a tide turning stones, smooth over years. As we drift through this serene terrain, the water around us begins to reveal faint structures suspended just beyond sight. Patterns of proteins shimmer with a softness that feels almost otherworldly, folding and unfolding like petals responding to an unseen breeze. Through the imagined clarity of advanced microscopy, we witness the exquisite architecture that exists inside every cell, structures shaped by forces so delicate they seem crafted from quiet intention. Filaments stretch and contract, forming frameworks that guide motion and maintain form. Vesicles gather substances and drift through the cytoplasm with slow, determined paths. Mitochondria pulse with a soft, rhythmic glow, their membranes curving like tiny chambers of warmth and energy. Ribosomes, though small beyond comprehension, appear as glimmering beads suspended in gentle flows, assembling proteins in silence, contributing to the ongoing harmony that sustains life at every scale. Even the spaces between structures feel alive, filled with currents so subtle they resemble whispers in the air. It is a world where every movement, no matter how small, participates in the unfolding of something essential. We drift through these landscapes as though suspended in a dream woven from the threads of existence itself. A soft shadow glides overhead, and the familiar form of the paramecium returns, moving with the same mesmerizing rhythm of coordinated cilia. Its body presses gently against the water, creating subtle waves that spread outward in concentric ripples. For a moment, we drift beside it, watching as it turns, slightly revealing layers of internal complexity, glowing faintly within its translucent frame. It moves with ease, guided by motions woven through instinct and structure. There is something soothing in its presence, an embodiment of function and grace combined. A little farther away, the amoeba extends once more, unfolding part of itself into the surrounding water. It stretches toward a drifting fragment of organic matter, enveloping it slowly, gently, as though wrapping it in soft embrace. The amoeba's body shimmers with subtle colors as its internal structures shift to accommodate its changing shape. Its form never settles into a single outline, instead embracing perpetual transformation. Watching it, we feel the boundaries of identity soften, a reminder that life can be fluid, adaptable, endlessly reformed by its environment. As the amoeba withdraws into its core shape, a quiet stillness settles over the nearby water. The glow dims slightly, and in the faint hush, a familiar figure arrives. The tardigrade, steady and sure, wandering through this miniature world with slow, deliberate steps. Its rotund body sways gently with each movement, its tiny claws hooking softly into surfaces that rise before it like cliffs and ridges. Though small, it radiates a quiet resilience and unspoken confidence that it belongs within these fragile realms. The tardigrade pauses atop a shimmering fragment of diatom shell, as if surveying the glowing landscape before continuing its journey. There is no hurry in its steps. Even its pauses feel patient, thoughtful. It embodies the ancient rhythm of life that persists through extremes, reminding us that strength often takes its purest form in the calmest beings. Around it, diatoms drift once again, forming arcs and spirals as though carried on gentle eddies of water. Their silica shells catch the faintest light, scattering it into soft halos that drift outward and fade into the darkness. Some cluster in circular formations, turning slowly, their delicate patterns shimmering like small planets in orbit. Others float singly, turning end over end, showcasing their intricate architecture from every angle. Together, they feel like a constellation, forming and dissolving in slow motion. As we pass through these drifting shapes, the harmony of the microscopic world deepens. It becomes clear that everything here is connected not only through cycles of nourishment and transformation, but also through shared rhythms of movement. Each organism seems to breathe with the others, following a pace set by the flow of water, the availability of light, the presence of nutrients. The unity feels profound, a quiet tapestry woven from countless threads of life. In this stillness, even the smallest details hold meaning. The slight vibration of a bacterial colony shifting in response to chemical signals, the faint rotation of a phytoplankton cell turning toward imagined sunlight, the soft shimmer of proteins assembling into structures that guide the energy within a cell. Each of these movements, so small, so subtle, becomes part of a sequence that sustains the world at every scale. As we continue drifting, the water around us begins to brighten once more, as though guiding us to another unfolding chapter of this dreamscape. The currents remain gentle, the glow remains soft, and the sense of harmony deepens with every passing moment. Here, in the serenity of tiny life, the boundaries of the world feel porous, interconnected. The vast and the small merge in quiet understanding. And in the delicate dance of microscopic beings, we begin to sense something larger, a reflection of the intricate balance that shapes all life from the smallest cell to the greatest ocean. We drift on, carried by currents, as patient as time, deeper into the silent symphony of the unseen. The gentle pull of the currents carries us onward, and the world around us grows even softer, as though wrapped in a haze of drifting luminescence. Shapes fold into one another in slow transitions, fading and reappearing like distant memories rising through calm water. Everything feels fluid, patient, woven with threads of stillness that shimmer just enough to guide our drifting gaze. The microscopic realm continues unfolding, not in sharp turns or sudden shifts, but in a long, continuous breath of movement, too serene for haste. A faint curtain of light ripples across our path, tinted with soft greens and blues. As we draw nearer, the shimmering curtain reveals itself to be a gathering of phytoplankton, suspended in a delicate sheet that sways with the quiet pulse of the water. Each tiny organism glows with a subtle luminescence, as though carrying a quiet echo of sunlight deep within its core. They turn gently, responding to invisible gradients of warmth and nutrients, forming patterns that shift like the gentle rustle of leaves stirred by distant breezes. Among this tranquil cloud, small zooplankton drift with patient grace. Their bodies are translucent, like sculptures carved from droplets of morning dew. Some extend tiny appendages that flutter in slow motion, almost imperceptible in their movements. Others pulse softly, expanding and contracting in gentle rhythms that echo the tempo of a resting heart. Their wandering paths form arcs and spirals through the glowing haze of phytoplankton, leaving wisps of subtle motion behind them. The water surrounding them feels alive with delicate murmurs, chemical signals drifting like faint echoes, particles settling like soft dust currents, shifting with the quiet certainty of instinct. Watching these tiny grazers sift through the drifting garden of producers, one can feel the old and essential harmony that sustains entire oceans. There is no tension in their movements, no urgency in their feeding. Instead, there is a quiet participation in cycles that have persisted for ages beyond memory. Below this glowing veil, the sediment stretches out once more, shaped by gentle waves and dotted with forms so small they resemble dust suspended in moonlight. But as we draw closer, even these specks reveal themselves as vibrant communities. Bacterial colonies bloom in subtle gradients of color, shifting from soft golds to faint blues. They gather in delicate clusters and swirling ribbons, each one turning fragments of organic matter into nourishment for the water above. Their work is steady, unbroken, and absolutely vital, yet carried out in such quiet that the world above rarely senses it. Thin threads of fungal hyphae branch through this sediment like networks of pale roots. They extend toward nutrients, not with haste, but with the calm knowledge that all cycles turn slowly. Their filaments explore dark crevices and hidden pockets, weaving unseen pathways across the shadows. These threads bind the sediment together, transforming remnants into the building blocks that life will reuse endlessly. There is comfort in the constancy of their presence, in the way they renew what has been forgotten. As we drift closer, a cluster of cells flickers into view, like a small glowing village suspended above the sediment. Under the clarity offered by advanced microscopy, we glimpse the interior of a single cell. The membranes surrounding it ripple like silk touched by breath. Inside, gentle movements unfold with quiet elegance. Vesicles drift from one region to another, carrying their tiny cargo with patient determination. Filaments stretch and contract, forming intricate scaffolding that guides the shape and motion of inner life. Ribosomes cluster along pathways, assembling proteins with the calm precision of artisans shaping tiny pieces of a mosaic. Mitochondria pulse with faint warmth, their folded membranes resembling glowing ridges of peaceful terrain. The cell's interior is not chaotic, but choreographed, each movement contributing to a soft symphony of function. Even at the smaller scale, life follows rhythms, responding to the quiet cues that define its existence. As we drift through this interior vista, the stillness wraps around us like a delicate fog. It is easy to imagine the entire cell as a miniature universe, endlessly active, yet profoundly serene. A universe where every process flows like a river winding through landscapes of proteins, filaments, and membranes that shimmer with purpose. Here, movement is gentle, intentional, part of an ancient story retold in microscopic detail. A soft shift in the current returns us to the world outside the cell, where the drifting forms resume their gentle dances. Paramecia glide once more into view, their rhythmic cilia beating in undulating waves. The patterns of their motion feel hypnotic, like watching ripples pulse through a field of tall grass on a calm evening. They move with a quiet certainty, responding to subtle cues, adjusting their paths without hesitation. An amoeba follows in their wake, its form stretching outward in slow waves. Its membrane glows faintly, shifting in shape as it explores the surrounding particles. The amoeba wraps around a small nutrient cluster, with its fluid body folding it inward with the softness of a sigh. As it drifts onward, its form rearranges again, dissolving from one shape into another with effortless grace. Nearby, a group of diatoms drifts in a loose constellation. Some appear like delicate sunbursts, others like elongated shards of stained glass. Their silica shells shimmer as they rotate, catching faint rays of imagined light. The patterns etched into their surfaces evoke a sense of natural artistry. Spirals, lattices, and symmetrical engravings shaped not by intention, but by the quiet mathematics of their growth. They look like tiny sculptures suspended in a gentle tide, each unique, each beautiful in its own quiet way. A flicker of movement draws our attention to a familiar presence. The tardigrade returns unhurried, as ever wandering across a surface that lifts beneath it like a small hill. Its rounded legs move in steady coordination, gripping softly yet firmly, with claws so tiny they seem made of light. There is comfort in its presence, in its patient steps and resilient form. It embodies the gentle strength that persists Even in fragile worlds, a steady traveler, following instincts that have guided its lineage for millions of years. The tardigrade pauses atop a diatom shell, its body illuminated by the faint glow surrounding it. For a moment, it seems to rest, taking in the luminous expanse. Then, with a soft sway, it resumes its path, continuing on with determination that feels almost soothing. Its unhurried march reminds us that resilience can be quiet, understated, and profoundly steady. As we drift further, the currents weave around us with renewed softness, blending light and shadow into one continuous spectrum. Every organism we encounter feels part of a single interconnected breath. Diatoms shimmering in quiet spirals, paramecia gliding in arcs, phytoplankton rising and falling like floating stars, fungi threading gently through the earth, bacteria humming with silent purpose scopipods, flickering with bursts of delicate energy. In this realm, the unseen becomes the foundation. The small become immense in meaning. The harmony of the microscopic world continues to unfold. With every gentle movement, each organism contributing to the balance that sustains life, from the tiniest droplet to the vastness of oceans. We float on, carried effortlessly as the dream deepens its soft glow, guiding us into the next drifting chapter of this quiet journey into the unseen. The currents cradle us again, softer now than before, as though we have drifted into a deeper layer of the dream, where motion becomes almost indistinguishable from stillness. Light gathers in thin wavering sheets, settling across the drifting forms like a fine mist. Everything seems touched by a gentler hue. Subdued greens, pale golds, muted blues blending together, the way dawn light blends with the last traces of night. The microscopic world around us breathes in this softened palette, revealing new shapes with the unhurried grace of something that has always been here, waiting patiently for our gaze to arrive. A cloud of phytoplankton moves in the distance, rolling across the water like a soft, translucent tide. They gather and disperse in shimmering waves, drifting upward toward the faint suggestion of warmth, then slowly settling back into the quiet depths. Their tiny bodies glow faintly, holding the memory of sunlight within them. The gentle turning of each cell creates a slow motion twinkling, as though stars have become suspended in water. They form the beginning of a breath the ocean takes each day, exhaling oxygen into the world above, sustaining life through endless cycles that unfold without sound. Within this glowing haze, small zooplankton wander with patient curiosity. Some pulse through the water in soft, rhythmic bursts, folding their limbs inward, then releasing them in gentle arcs. Others drift with feathery antennae extended, letting the water's whispering currents decide their direction. Their internal organs shimmer faintly, arranged in delicate structures that respond with the slightest movements. They graze upon the phytoplankton with peaceful steadiness, fulfilling roles that shape entire ecosystems, all without breaking the tranquility of this dreamlike water. A solitary copepod makes its way across a thin beam of light, its body sparkling like a tiny gemstone. It hops forward in short, bright pulses, then drifts again. Each burst leaves a trembling shimmer in its wake, a fleeting ripple of energy that fades almost as soon as it appears. Yet even in its liveliness, it remains part of the calm, its small bursts of motion never disturbing the harmony, only adding to the gentle rhythm of activity unfolding in the water around us. We drift closer to the sediment, below a soft terrain shaped by the slow accumulation of life and time. The particles glow faintly, as though touched by starlight filtered through miles of water. Here on this quiet floor, bacteria cluster in shimmering mosaics. They gather in patterns that resemble frost forming on a window pane, branching outward delicately. With patience, older than memory, they work to break down fragments of what once lived, returning essential nutrients to the currents above. Their movements are subtle, so subtle they feel more like changes in the air than actual motion. Threads of fungi stretch across the sediment, forming networks that look like tiny rivers frozen mid-flow. Their hyphae extend slowly, exploring new spaces with quiet intent. They seek out what has drifted into the shadows, organic matter softened by time, and gently dismantle it, piece by piece, until its essence returns to the water that cradles us. The rhythm of decomposition becomes soothing here, a reminder that even endings can be soft, patient, and full of purpose. A faint shimmer draws our attention upward, where a cluster of cells hovers in suspended stillness. Through the clarity offered by advanced microscopy, the interior of one cell glows with intricate detail. The membrane that surrounds it moves like a thin veil stirred by breath, subtle waves passing across its surface. Within the cell, structures shift and pulse with quiet determination. Protein chains assemble themselves in slow, elegant folds. Vesicles drift through the fluid interior like small luminous seeds carried by unseen currents. Filaments stretch, contract, rearrange, shaping the invisible architecture that allows the cell to thrive. The mitochondria glow softly, their folded membranes rising and falling like hills lit by gentle twilight. Ribosomes float with calm purpose, each one assembling building blocks of life in rhythms that echo the larger cycles around us. Through these small motions, we glimpse the universality of life, how patterns repeat across scale, how the tiniest processes reflect the same harmony that binds oceans, forests, and entire planets. As we drift back into the open water, the paramecia return. They glide in slow arcs, their cilia moving in gentle waves that ripple along their bodies with perfect coordination. Their paths cross like dancers, weaving through a slow underwater waltz. Light catches the edges of their forms, revealing shifting internal shapes that pulse with soft luminescence. They move with an elegance born not of intention, but of structure, every stroke of their tiny hairs contributing to the symmetry of their drifting world. Nearby, the amoeba reshapes itself, once more expanding outward as though reaching to embrace the soft currents. It flows into a new form, then withdraws, then extends again in another direction. Each movement unfolds like a sigh, a soft release of stillness into the surrounding water. When it encounters a cluster of nutrients, its membrane folds around them, gently gathering them in a quiet gesture of sustenance. Nothing about the motion feels abrupt or strained. The amoeba becomes whatever shape the moment requires, existing in a continuous state of becoming. Diatoms drift through this gentle motion, their silica shells glinting like fragments of stained glass. Their forms turn slowly, circles, ovals, stars, and elongated blades etched with intricate ridges. The patterns feel both mathematical and artistic, as if nature and symmetry met in still water and created tiny sculptures to hold the memory of their meeting. They spin drift cluster and separate again, following currents that seem to guide them with tender precision. A familiar silhouette appears, steady and comforting in its deliberate movement. The tardigrade returns, wandering across a shimmering surface that rises beneath it like a sunlit trail. Its small legs move with methodical softness, each step thoughtful and unhurried. Its plump body sways gently, adjusting to the contours of the terrain. Even here, where life unfolds in fragile forms, The tardigrade carries an aura of enduring strength. It is a quiet guardian of this microscopic world, resilient, persistent, yet never forceful. As it moves, the tardigrade's tiny claws hook softly into the substrate, and for a moment it pauses, as though listening to the currents or sensing the faint chemical whispers drifting through the water. Its stillness is grounding, a reminder that resilience does not always roar or rush. Sometimes it simply continues, steady and gentle, step by tiny step. Around us, every living form contributes to the same soft harmony. Phytoplankton shimmer upward in waves. Zooplankton drift in arcs and spirals. Paramecia trace elegant pathways through the currents. Amoebas reshape themselves in quiet exploration. Diatoms turn like small luminous jewels. Fungi weave through the shadows. Bacteria hum with the foundational rhythm of transformation. Tardigrades step steadily through shimmering terrain. Together they create a world that, though unseen by most, supports every breath the planet takes. Here in the quiet of this microscopic dream, the distinction between observer and world begins to soften. We feel not like visitors, but like part of the same gentle unfolding, floating through a realm that reveals the profound beauty of smallness. The deeper we drift, the more clearly the message becomes. Life thrives in forms delicate and grand, familiar and hidden, immense and minute. And every form at every scale participates in the same ancient harmonious balance. The water glows softly around us. The currents in slow, steady pulses, and we drift onward, deeper still, into this gentle symphony of tiny life. The currents steady around us, smoothing into a long, continuous hush, as if the microscopic world has settled into an even deeper layer of quiet. Shapes rise and soften, dissolving into gentle outlines, before sharpening once more like ripples, forming and fading across the surface of a still lake. The dream that surrounds us does not feel constructed. It feels lived, patient, ancient. We drift through it without disturbing a single thread of its delicate tapestry. Ahead, soft ribbons of phytoplankton unfurl through the water, shimmering with hues of pale jade and muted amber. They gather in spiraling drifts, responding to gradients of light with a tenderness that feels instinctual. Each tiny cell turns, as though gently adjusting its posture, aligning itself toward the faintest traces of imagined sun. Their glow is subtle, like candlelight seen through frosted glass. The water around them carries carries this gentle radiance, filling the space with a warmth that feels almost like a soft breath rising from the deep. Among these drifting ribbons, zooplankton glide in quiet patterns. Some appear like tiny bells pulsing with rhythmic waves. Others resemble delicate threads curling and uncurling as they move. Their bodies refract the faint glow of their surroundings, creating shifting mosaics of light that drift with them. They graze without urgency, moving through the phytoplankton clouds with an ease that suggests they have always known. These currents always trusted their flow. A copepod flickers near the edge of our view, its movements bright and sudden, yet never jarring. It darts forward with small, deliberate pulses, then pauses to float in place as if suspended in contemplation. Its shimmering form catches the drifting glow, scattering it into tiny points of light. Even in its bursts of motion, the copepod remains part of the harmony, its movements adding texture to the calm rather than disturbing it. Beneath these drifting forms, the sediment spreads out like a muted terrain, glowing faintly under the filtered light. Bacteria cluster here in soft patterns that resemble dew collecting on stone. They work in silence, breaking down what settles upon the sediment, turning each fragment into something new. The constancy of their presence radiates a quiet steadiness. They are the unseen hands that keep the balance, shaping the foundation upon which all other life depends. Thin hyphae of fungi weave through this terrain, extending outward in branching paths. Their delicate filaments explore gently, sensing the faint traces of organic matter resting within the sediment. They reach, envelop, and transform with patient certainty. Nothing about their motion is hurried. Their purpose unfolds at a pace as old as time, turning small remnants into nourishment for countless unseen beings. As we sink closer, the interior of a nearby cell reveals itself once more in exquisite detail. Through clarity offered by the imagined perfection of advanced microscopy, the membrane shimmers like a living curtain, rising and falling with subtle rhythms. Within ribosomes drift in quiet clusters, creating proteins with a calm precision that echoes the gentle cycles beyond. Filaments stretch across the cell, forming scaffolds that hold everything in fluid equilibrium. We watch vesicles floating through the cytoplasm, tiny spheres of purpose that glide like soft beads carried upon a river. The mitochondria pulse in warm, faint glows, their folded membranes appearing like glowing ridges in soft twilight. The cell feels like a small universe, every every movement part of an unbroken circulation of life. Even in its smallest motions, the cell echoes the vastness of the world outside, repeating patterns that resonate across scales. Drifting upward again, we return to the fluid arc of movement traced by Paramecia. Their cilia create ripples that blend with the gentle currents, forming patterns that resemble waves layered upon waves. They glide in slow paths, sometimes circling one another, sometimes passing in quiet spirals that feel like the continuation of a dance we have witnessed many times. Their trajectories, though simple, hold a grace that feels instinctively familiar. The amoeba appears once more, reshaping itself with the calm fluidity of a drifting cloud. It expands outward, its membrane gliding over soft currents, then pulls back into new forms. When it encounters a nutrient cluster, the membrane gently folds around it, bringing it inward with a softness that resembles an embrace. The amoeba changes shape without hesitation, embodying a form of adaptation that feels both ancient and effortless. Nearby diatoms gather in a slow constellation. They turn in delicate spirals, their silica shells catching the faintest glimmer of light. Their symmetrical engravings, intricate ridges, repeating patterns, delicate windows reveal themselves in slow rotation. They drift past one another like small worlds moving along quiet orbits. Their presence fills the water with a sense of delicate crystalline artistry, shaped not by intent, but by the intricate balance of life. A faint shadow steadies into form, and the tardigrade ambles into view again. It walks with gentle certainty, its plump body rocking softly from side to side. Its tiny claws hook into invisible surfaces, as though it is traversing mountains rather than grains of sediment. Its presence is grounding, a reminder that resilience can exist quietly, that strength can be soft and unhurried. The tardigrade pauses beside a spiraling diatom, its small head turning slightly as though sensing something within the water. It lingers for a moment in stillness, calm, patient, before continuing its slow journey. Watching it, one begins to feel the deep, ancient rhythms of survival and persistence that run through even the smallest forms of life. Around it, the microscopic world continues its gentle choreography. Phytoplankton swirl upward in luminous ripples. Zooplankton trace faint arcs through the drifting haze. Paramecia glide through spiraling currents. Amoebas reshape themselves in soft waves. Diatoms drift like tiny lanterns. Fungi extend their delicate networks. Bacteria hum through the foundational cycles. And the tardigrade, steady and sure, continues its peaceful wanderings. In this world, where everything is connected through soft, rhythmic motion, the boundaries of existence blur. Observing these tiny beings, we begin to feel the interconnectedness of all life, the shared breath of oceans, forests, and cells, woven quietly through every movement. The unseen spaces of the world reveal themselves as vast worlds in miniature, each one essential, each one part of a larger serenity. The water brightens slightly around us as though preparing to reveal the final layer of this quiet journey. The currents remain tender, carrying us deeper into the heart of the unseen. The water around us grows softer still, the currents smoothing into a near-perfect stillness, as though we have drifted into the innermost chamber of this microscopic dream. Light gathers here in calm layers, settling across floating shapes like dust drifting through a quiet room at dawn. Everything feels suspended, held in a moment without edges, where motion and silence fold into one another so gently that they become indistinguishable. Slowly, a veil of phytoplankton rises to meet us, glowing with a warmth that feels almost like memory. Their soft radiance hovers in shifting clouds, drifting upward and downward in long, slow waves. They turn toward the faint warmth, as though guided by an instinct older than the oceans themselves, their bodies quietly transforming light into life. Through their gentle persistence, they nourish everything that moves around them. Their contribution is vast, yet their presence remains humble. Tiny lanterns offering the world its breath. Among these drifting clouds, zooplankton move with unspoken grace. Their translucent bodies catch the soft glow and bend it into fleeting arcs of light. Their legs and filaments drift behind them in faint trails, creating ripples that fold into the quiet. Some pulse forward with gentle rhythm, others float freely, trusting themselves to the surrounding currents. Their wandering paths create loops and spirals, soft as breath drawn in the early hours of morning. The copepod appears again in quick glimmering pulses, small leaps that tremble through the water like tiny sparks. It hovers, then hops, then drifts, always a delicate contrast to the slow music of the world around it. Even its bursts of movement feel harmonious like bright notes in a soft melody. It seems to stitch little stitches through the currents, sewing together moments of stillness with threads of motion. Below, the sediment stretches wide and muted, holding remnants of life that have settled gently through the currents. In these shadows, bacteria gather like faint constellations. They work with steady, invisible rhythm, breaking down what drifts to the bottom, transforming fragments into elements that will someday rise again. Their labor is patient and continuous, contributing to cycles that remain balanced only because of their quiet diligence. The fungal hyphae reach through these spaces in slender branching lines. They drift into new pockets of sediment, extending with unhurried confidence. Each path feels deliberate, guided by subtle environmental cues. They unravel what the world no longer needs, releasing nutrients back into the gentle flow. Even in the act of decomposition, there is something soothing and assurance that nothing is truly lost, only reshaped and returned. We drift closer to a shimmering cell suspended nearby. Its interior lights up in elegant detail, revealing the choreography unfolding within. Filaments stretch and relax. Vesicles glide with patient intention. Proteins fold themselves into quiet perfection. Mitochondria pulse with steady warmth, while ribosomes assemble the building blocks of life like tiny artisans. Every motion reflects a balance that resonates across all living things. Inside this cell, the architecture feels sacred, an intimate echo of the larger harmony surrounding us. The paramecia glide past once more, cilia beating in rhythmic waves. Their paths cross and arc and meander like dancers tracing patterns through calm water. Light shimmers along their surfaces, revealing faint hints of their inner landscapes. They move with effortless grace, following the quiet currents that guide them. The amoeba drifts near its form, shifting in slow, contemplative waves. It expands, envelops a drifting particle, then reforms itself with tranquil fluidity. Each gesture seems like a soft exhale, an acceptance of the constant change that shapes its existence. Its adaptability carries no urgency, only quiet assurance that transformation is natural, continuous, and unthreatening. Diatoms drift across our path again, crystalline and luminous. Their silica shells turn slowly, revealing geometric ridges and delicate windows carved with unintentional artistry. Their patterns evoke stillness, symmetry, and gentle order. Some rotate in place, others float along unseen currents, their movements soft as drifting petals. Together, they form a tapestry of tiny architecture, each piece contributing subtle beauty to the world. A familiar silhouette emerges from the softened glow, steady and comforting. The tardigrade returns, placing one tiny foot before the other with unwavering patience. Its plump body sways gently, its claws gripping invisible pathways, as though the world beneath it is vast terrain. Its resilience feels like a heartbeat within this realm, quiet, steady, enduring. Even here, surrounded by fragile beings, the tardigrade moves with calm strength, reminding us that persistence need not be loud or forceful. It pauses on a floating fragment of diatom shell, glancing toward the luminous haze. Its stillness carries meaning, a moment of quiet observation before another step. Then, without any rush, it continues forward, a traveler wandering through a world that reveals its beauty in soft, deliberate detail. As we drift upward from this scene, the entire microscopic world hums around us. Phytoplankton shimmer in rising waves. Zooplankton drift in arcs of pale light. Paramecia trace wandering currents. Amoebas reshape themselves in gentle motion. Diatoms turn like delicate lanterns. Bacteria renew the foundation. Fungi weave through shadows. Tardigrades step with quiet resilience. All together, they form a soft symphony of existence, a harmony woven through countless small gestures, each essential, each beautiful. And in this drifting depth, a quiet truth unfolds. Understanding the smallest forms of life deepens our appreciation for the world at every scale. When we look closely, we find beauty hidden in places we never thought to search. We find balance in gentle cycles, serenity in simple motion, connection in the unseen. The water brightens around us, and the dream begins to settle. We drift upward, not leaving the microscopic world behind, but carrying its calm with us, an awareness that even the smallest corners of existence are filled with wonder. As the glow softens into quiet darkness, this journey through the unseen folds into a peaceful memory, ready to rest beside you like a soft whisper of life, moving patiently beneath all things.